Welcome, Pewter Report readers and listeners, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. I am John Ledyard from PewterReport.com. Along with me today, the one and the only Scott Reynolds, back from a 2-day hiatus / suspension, also from PewterReport.com. And of course, the return of the one and only No Man Bun, but he is here with us in not in person, digitally, Trevor Sikkema. Trevor.
This
welcome.
feels like the best it's been in person over the last year or so. So I'll take it. I feel like we're in person at this point. And I just want to say, John, right? To hear you intro the Pewter Report podcast, it just warms my heart. It just made me feel real special inside. So that was a real treat for me. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Listen, I don't know if I could do it justice to the ones who've gone before, but I give it my best every single time we're out here. Scott, we're joined by a king today, Trevor Sikkema of the Draft Network, formerly of PewterReport.com.
That's right.
Longtime cover of the Buccaneers, has switched fandom and covering the Panthers a little bit, and we'll talk about that as well. But it's an honor to have you on with us today, Trevor. We're excited about this.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Anytime that I get to talk ball with both of you guys, it's always a treat. And so getting to do this at the same time for a little bit here on a platform that I hold near and dear to my heart is going to be very, very special. So I really do appreciate you guys having me on. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I'm not sure if you know this or not, Trevor, but since the last time you were here, Scott Reynolds has really upped his game in the whole graphics department. And he's kind of added to his skill set a little bit. So if you see anything during this show that catches your eye, it's probably the work of Scott Reynolds.
Scott's always been really into the youth movement. Even back when I was working there, he was me and him shared the same music taste. We like the same artists and everything. And so it does not shock me at all that Scott's getting into the graphics design game. He's going, oh, it's not oh man, those kids and their graphics design. He's like, nah, I'm going to beat these kids at their own game. And so doesn't shock me at all.
I mean, to a degree. Now, listen, I got to admit, right? I mean, it's look at that handsome mug. I mean, that is a Steven Stamkos, is a Trevor Sikkema. That's always been the comparison, right? And then, listen, I know you're a huge Marvel fan, right, Trevor? I mean, you look at your dog's name is Marvel. I mean, I'm sure you've been following all of the new Marvel concepts that have been coming on Disney, right?
Yes.
And listen, I was pretty geeked when they had a new Captain America, and I thought it was going to be Sam right out of the gate, right? I thought it was going to be Falcon right out of the gate, and it wasn't. And I was a little curious, well, if it's not Sam, if it's not Falcon, who is it? And then I realized, holy crap, it's Trevor Sikkema.
Somebody screenshot this for me, please.
Unbelievable!
Look at this man's handiwork.
And I'm just saying, it's
my God!
What a clean edit.
I was shocked. I was really shocked that it was you, Trevor. And then I thought, there's no way that Trevor could be Captain America, because I mean, it's just the shield in the super serum, right? I mean, that's all. We have to give Trevor some more, right? I mean, let's just up the game to friggin' Thanos, shall we? Give him the Infinity Stones to crush the draft competition. Right?
Look at the neck on this man.
Just give him the glove and the Infinity Stones, and let's just be done with it, shall we?
I look like the Mike Glennon of superhero villains right there.
Mike Glennon. Look at that thing.
Oh man. So
that's incredible. Wow.
So Trevor, you have the power. Let's talk about the draft, shall we? I mean, that's your power. That's your superpower, man. Is draft analysis.
It is. Where do you guys want to begin? What do you want to talk about to start?
Let's talk about.
Hold on. Well, we have to get some breaking news in first. We have to get some breaking news. Why? Because Blaine is back.
I knew you were going to start.
There was the cry. The cry was bring Blaine back. I mean, that's what we've longed for here. We have campaigned openly to have Blaine Gabbert return to the Buccaneers, and lo and behold, thanks to the powers that be, Jason Light and Mike Greenberg, that happened. That campaign turned in reality. So we're awfully excited to welcome in on the heels of the Bucs drafting Blaine Gabbert. Blaine is back. He's officially back. So Trevor, it's Steven Stamkos. It's Trevor Sikkema. It's Blaine Gabbert. You look a little bit like Blaine Gabbert.
When he grows out the beard, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit. I don't have the long hair that he did. I don't know if does he still have long hair? I don't know.
He cropped
he
it.
Does. Well, yeah, he did crop it.
It was long, but he cropped it. So I think he wanted the Trevor Sikkema look.
I was going to say, I had long hair for quarantine too, but, we all got to evolve. Life's all about, moving on, evolving a little bit. So, I can understand that with Blaine.
Wow. Pearls of wisdom. Let's drop some wisdom on this draft class, Trevor. Joe Tryon in the first round. Yes, Bucs best bet. But at the same time, were you a little bit surprised to see this one come to fruition at all?
I wasn't, for a number of reasons. I mean, the first one is because it fits. When you look at the needs that the Buccaneers had, there weren't any. It was literally just whoever they wanted to draft, who they thought I think made the most sense. And when we were listening to Jason Light earlier this offseason, I believe I read this from John. You were tweeting out some things that Jason Light was saying, and he said that he builds his draft board and they look at their draft analysis of these guys for 2 to 3 years down the road. It's not necessarily who's going to help them the most their rookie year. They know that rookie years are a lot about learning, not just on the field, but off the field as well. You're learning life. You're learning how to become your own man. It's often you going to a new city, being comfortable in your own surroundings, getting your own confidence in that way. And that goes a long way towards you unlocking what you can do on the field as well. So it makes sense that you don't look at guys where they are exactly right now, but who they can be and who they can be for your team over the next couple of years. And so, are you laughing at the comment that he just put up?
Yes.
I mean,
it's not the only one.
Listen, I'm just waiting on the Buccaneers to mail me my Super Bowl ring. Okay, I'm still waiting on it to happen.
Just like in hockey, Trevor, you get the assist, man.
Right, that's true. This is true. I'm the hockey assist for the Super Bowl. Yes,
yeah.
But the Tryon pick made a lot of sense because I remember even going back to my years as a reporter with you guys with Pewter Report. Jason's always had a really good finger on the pulse of the Washington football program. He's just had a really good idea of the players that were for real coming out of Washington. It always seemed like when there was a guy that you could really believe in, Jason was really in on him. Obviously, Vita Vea is with the Buccaneers now, but I remember he loved Budda Baker as well.
Yeah.
Budda Baker he was coming out, and he was super obsessed with him when Scott and I were covering the draft for Pewter Report a couple of years ago. And so I figured that if Joe Tryon was going to be the real deal, they were going to be in on him. And it made a lot of sense knowing that little bit of background information and also looking at what might really help them with depth over the next 2 years of their winning window with Brady as their quarterback. And right now they have Shaq Barrett. They have Jason Pierre-Paul. Pierre-Paul's getting up there in age and his contract is kind of coming close at the end, but I'm not going to doubt the dude to play until he's 40 at this point. I mean, he just feels like he's a cyborg, but behind him, you got, as a true outside linebacker pass rusher type, it's kind of Anthony Nelson, and then that's about it. I mean, I mean, they have some other guys that I think that you're relatively fine with, but when you're in a position like the Buccaneers are, it makes sense to get another really high side athletic linebacker. And so I don't think Joe Tryon is super polished as a rusher right now, but he's very frenetic. And you always want to get a guy who's high energy and try to hone him in, calm him down a little bit, rather than get a guy who doesn't have the ability to get up to what you would think is NFL speed, NFL violence, NFL aggression. And I feel like Joe Tryon, that's quite the look there. I mean, that's
speaking
basically
of superheroes.
Yeah, they basically saw that picture of Joe Tryon and went all right, we're good. Yeah, we can just draft that guy.
I actually thought that was another Photoshop with Trevor's body and something.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, that time they photoshopped my body and they just put Joe Tryon's head on
there
top.
There you go. Yeah, all that's missing is the cape. Really, I mean, that's it.
Well, I mean, he's got the sledgehammer, which is almost, Thor-esque because the hammer's right next to him. So, no, I think that the Tryon pick made a lot of sense for a lot of different reasons, and we had some pretty good intel on that as well. I know you guys did because you had your Bucs best bet, and you guys are always very on point with all of those. And so when I saw that was your pick, I was very confident in me making that pick as well.
Well, the interesting thing is because sticking on the Washington theme, Trevor, this team signed Benning Potoahi from the defensive line up there at the Huskies last year. So they've got two guys in the trenches now on the defensive side of the ball from Washington. So you're right. They know the program really well. It's interesting because we were getting ready to come out with our second mock draft, and I saw Levi Onwuzurike and your mock draft literally a day before we came out with that. I'm like, oh crap, and I was thinking, well, maybe this kind of makes sense. I think you and I were kind of syncing up mentally right there about that. And then as the draft evaluation process crept on, we kind of realized, okay, Onwuzurike was was a second-round guy. But interestingly enough, in that mock draft, we had Onwuzurike in the first round and then Tryon in the second round back in March. And we were told by a couple of people in the league that said, flip them. That Tryon's going to go ahead of Onwuzurike. They're both kind of like second-round guys, but Tryon's going to go first. And that's kind of what allowed us to make that flip and switch. And sure enough, Tryon goes number 32 to Tampa Bay, and then Onwuzurike goes in the earlier middle part of the second round to Detroit.
Right. Yeah, no, and he was another guy. I really, when this offseason started, kind of January, February, I went into it with that mentality, knowing that if there was first and foremost, defensive line was probably going to be a target for them no matter what. Free agency comes around and they somehow bring everybody back, because that was the conversation, right? People were looking at the Bucs defensive line and they said, okay, well, if they bring back Ndamukong Suh and not Shaq Barrett, then of course they'd probably go with a more edge rusher, and that would put Joe Tryon on the board at 32. Well, if they brought back Shaq Barrett and they couldn't bring back Ndamukong Suh, then maybe they go for Levi Onwuzurike, maybe draft him a little bit early, get ahead of it if he was a guy in consideration. Turns out they bring everybody back. And so when everybody was on the table, I think drafting the outside linebacker edge rusher spot was more advantageous for them than even getting Levi Onwuzurike. So hearing from the league, like you said, that Tryon was going to go a little bit earlier. I started to hear that in the month of April as well. And I think that obviously that's the way that it played out.
It's interesting too, because most people, even after the Bucs somehow brought back everyone, which we'll talk about in a minute, I don't think a lot of people would have seen the Bucs not drafting a defensive tackle at all. Did that stun you at all? Go looking at their draft board and thinking, I know it wasn't a great defensive tackle class, but still, did you think at some point, man, this team's going to add somebody to the group at some point in this draft?
Well, yeah, I mean, I certainly thought that it was on the table, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like they brought a lot of their depth on the defensive line back as well. So it's a lot of guys that they're really happy with. You know, with Will Golson on the team, I feel like he can be a versatile guy for them. Obviously, they have Ndamukong Suh, they have Vita Vea, like all of these guys. Like that's a fine interior rotation. Like whether you're playing odd fronts or even fronts, whatever you want from your interior guys. And so, I suppose that I'm a little shocked. I would have thought if there was a point at which they would have hit the sweet spot for interior defensive line in this class, it would have been with where they picked Kyle Trask. So I felt like that was probably, since they went with Trask at the end of the second round, them not taking a defensive line, a defensive tackle made sense given the depth that they have, because of course they go offensive tackle after that, they get a receiver weapon. And then really a lot of their day three stuff was just guys who are going to be great for them on special teams, which is really important, because clearly the starting 11 on both sides of the ball is good enough to win a Super Bowl. You just want to make sure that you're winning that X factor third phase of the game. So I feel like if they would have went defensive tackle, it would have been the second round. They just
it would have been early, because there's only a handful of guys that are really worth taking in this year's draft. You know, but you know what's not surprising, Trevor? The delicious taste of Celsius and the energy it provides with no sugar crash. It's orange. That's what.
I forgot to grab one before the show. It's why I'm dragging over here a little bit.
This is empty because I've already had my Celsius today. I'm already energized and ready to go. And if you have been a viewer of the Pewter Report podcast for so long and you've yet to try Celsius, what are you waiting for? Oh, I can't find one. Don't let that be an excuse. Go to Celsius.com, click on the store locator, and once you do that, you can enter your address, and you'll find out all of these health and fitness stores, convenience stores, and big box stores like Target and Walmart that have Celsius near you. And then you can try all the different flavors. And once you pick a flavor you like, then go over to pewterreport.com, click on those Celsius banners. They're going to take you to Amazon. You can buy them in bulk and save a lot of money.
Absolutely. Some great flavors. I hit the Orangesicle this morning. Personally, love it. Does great stuff. And Nate reminds me that my Celsius is actually behind me on the bookshelf. That's true. That one's just the prop though, Nate. It's not cold. I have to drink them cold. That's how I drink them. But Okay, second round, Trevor, we got Kyle Trask coming off the board. As this pick approached, Scott and I are looking at each other like, all right, they're going to take an offensive lineman. They're going to get Creed Humphrey or Josh Myers or one of these guys and bolster that interior. And then all of a sudden, boom, boom, they come off the board right in front of the Bucs in round 2. And we're like looking at the board and we're like, well, they could take a corner, but he's going to be their 5th corner. Can he play special teams? And we're trying to figure out what the heck they're going to do. And we're just like, it's got to be a quarterback. And Kyle Trask was our Bucs' best bet. But I still think we were a little skeptical on where quarterback would fall in the priority. And then when they didn't trade up in the second round, knowing that they didn't need all their picks,
pretty much the telltale sign was going to be Trask. And that allowed us to hit. We were 2 for 2 on our Bucs' best bets, as we had Trask as the quarterback the Bucs were going to draft if they're going to draft a quarterback. And this
one surprised you a little bit, though, didn't it, Trevor?
It didn't surprise me that they selected a quarterback because I felt like this could always be the possibility. I wasn't so sure that it was going to be in this year's draft because I really do feel like Brady's probably going to play another 2 years. And if you're not drafting a quarterback in the first round, then you're only getting 4 years out of their rookie contract. So then best case scenario, Kyle Trask or whoever it was going to be outside of the first round, which they were never going to do, isn't going to start until the 3rd year of their rookie contract. So then that's basically their first year as a starter. And then you've got to like make a big time determination out of them in their second year in the NFL. So I don't know. I didn't really think that the timing was great, especially for a team that is truly just going all in over the next 2 years. Certainly you don't want to totally sell out and just be terrible when Brady leaves, but I didn't really get this one from the timing standpoint. I didn't think it was going to happen, but it did. And I also, I don't really get it from the Trask standpoint. I went to the University of Florida. I love
I was
Trask.
going to say, I thought you were going to correct me when I said Trask without saying Gator Great in front of his name.
Right.
I
so
apologize
absolutely. Florida Gator Great Kyle Trask. Let us never forget. I remember watching Trask's recruiting tape, and he had some of the prettiest floater touch passes that you've ever seen in high school. And I was like, man, this dude could be something special with accuracy. And he gets to Florida and he sits behind Felipe Franks because, coaching believed in Felipe Franks' arm a little bit more because he had more upside because he could push it down the field. He could get a little more velocity on the ball. But then Trask obviously starts because Felipe couldn't stop turning the ball over. And in a really, really good offense, Trask was able to facilitate things in rhythm really well. But I just never felt like Kyle Trask and what his best strengths are and like what your best case scenario is as a quarterback fit really what Bruce Arians has ever gone for in a quarterback when he has had the chance to prove it. Bruce Arians is always going for those alpha kind of quarterbacks, those big armed guys, the guys who have the higher ceiling, the guys who are big time risk takers. And he's trying to perfect those kinds of players. And even Brady, people always like to get on Tom Brady and say like, oh, he doesn't have that strong of an arm. I mean, John, you did a pretty great job last season dispelling that, how Brady was consistently pushing down the field. And Brady actually is the kind of quarterback that Bruce Arians would really want. And I just never really saw that in Kyle Trask. I think that you can differentiate arm strength in 2 ways, distance and velocity. Distance, you can sometimes mask a little bit because you could step into the throw.
Air under the throw and all of that.
And it'll float maybe 55, 60 yards down the field. It's different when you got to hit a football in a football-sized window over the middle of the field to split 2 zones and just fire it in there. And Trask just doesn't do that. And when things were on rhythm for a very talented Florida offense, Trask piled up the stats. He had guys like Kadarius Toney, Kyle Pitts, Justin Shorter, Trayvon Grimes, all of these guys to throw to over the last couple of years. And he was a good enough facilitator. But I think when things really got off rhythm, when his supporting cast wasn't as good near towards the end of the season, you saw him unravel and have some of his worst games. And so I'm not going to sit here and say that that's the best we're ever going to see of him. He could certainly improve, but I never really saw Trask as anything more than a backup quarterback in the NFL who might be a spot starter, but even if that's the case, you're always going to look to upgrade him. And so all of that to say, as a backup, fine, but I didn't really love the pick because I don't know what it gives the Bucs over the next 2 years. I don't really know if it gives them anything. And unless Kyle Trask's arm and his mentality as a quarterback, it's a lot more fearless, a lot more aggressive, and a lot stronger, that I don't even think he's really taken over
Trevor,
after Tom Brady.
So it might be a thing where Bruce Arians, after a year of Jameis Winston and those 30 interceptions, does not want any more Risk-It, right? Maybe he's done with the Risk-It. He just wants, instead of a biscuit, like a little crumb, like a bite. That's all he wants. It's not like the whole biscuit. he's not going to risk it anymore because of all of the 7 pick sixes and all of that stuff. So maybe he wants somebody that's a little bit more risk adverse.
You know, when you look at over the next 2 years, I think a big reason why Kyle Trask didn't choose the number 11 to wear with the Buccaneers, like he wore in college, is because they knew that they were bringing back Blaine Gabbert. He probably was like, hey, can I take number 11? They were like, well, you probably shouldn't because Blaine's going to take it.
That's right.
If Tom Brady ever gets hurt long term, the team is not winning Super Bowl. I mean, like the team, obviously, like that is what it is. If Tom Brady gets hurt in the short term, Kyle Trask is never going to play over a veteran like Blaine Gabbert. He's not going to play over a veteran like Ryan Griffin, even though Ryan Griffin doesn't have a lot of snaps. And so that's why, like, I don't see where the big time payoff is for Kyle Trask in the end of the second round, when this team could have added more beef in the trenches. And maybe that was their plan all along. And a couple of guys they really wanted to fall didn't fall to him. So be it. That is what it is. But hey, you know what? To your point, Scott, maybe Bruce Arians is hanging him up whenever Brady hangs him up anyways.
That's
so maybe
he's
not even the coach to coach him.
Maybe he doesn't care that much about it. Now, I was curious. I mean, Trask was 4th in the NCAA in deep ball yards. I mean, he threw the ball down the field a lot, but you're right. Velocity, not really his game. It was a lot of touch passes over the top.
Right.
He's not afraid to stretch a defense vertically. I mean, you watch that Alabama game, you could see how aggressive he is in terms of throwing the ball down the field. It's not a lot of, though, tight window throws all the time, although I think he's got the stones for the position. I think that's what Arians and Light gravitated toward at that spot. But I do want to ask you this, and Parker brings up a good question here. He says, I would have risked for the upside on Mond. Well, here's the tricky part about that, guys. Kellen Mond threw more passes in college football than any of the quarterbacks in this class.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, Mond has a better arm and a better athleticism. So I guess you could say upside in that way. But the Trask pick made me think about upside in a different way. I thought Trask has thrown the least passes, I think, other than Trey Lance, out of all the top quarterbacks in this class.
Well, except for Davis Mills.
And Davis Mills, right? Good reminder on Davis Mills.
Yeah.
But I still think it was close. But no, good reminder on Davis Mills, true. But he has not played very much football, Kyle Trask. And so I can see maybe the upside argument is that as this guy plays more, we already saw a huge leap from 19 to 20. Is there another one of those bad boys in there? And I don't think there is necessarily, but I think I could see the rationale in that way. My question to you, Trevor, is if you're going quarterback at 64, top 4-5 guys are obviously off the board at that point. You know you're going quarterback at 64. Would you have rather have seen them go for a Kellen Mond or a Davis Mills or even like somebody that went later in the Jamie Newman or Ian Book, somebody like that?
Ian Book.
I literally threw that in there so you could eye roll it.
Dude, Ian Book going, he went 133, right? I think he went 133.
Drag the Saints.
Dude, his over-under was 207.
Wow.
His over-under on draft position was 207, and he got drafted 133.
Saints out here reaching, trying to keep up with the Bucs.
I mean, fourth round pick.
That's
look at these reaches.
Unbelievable. So, you know, I know you're saying that, like, if you had to take a quarterback, but like I have to say at the top, I wouldn't have taken a quarterback.
Yeah,
their quarterback room is 3 people deep right now. It's got veterans. It's got experience. Like, these are the guys that you're rocking with for the next 2 years. You know, I think that if you wanted to draft a quarterback next year, that probably would have been in a better situation.
Boston College is Phil Jerkovic, but they broke my heart by taking Trask this year. I like Jerkovic. I think he's going to be a really good player this year.
Listen, Scott, look, I know I put out my way too early 2022 mock, but please don't ask me about guys who are playing. No, I'm just kidding. I know that you're just getting your takes out there with those guys. Look, and that's kind of the thing is, I know a lot of names that could be both first and second round picks next year that I feel like the Bucs would have been a lot more comfortable with going with a quarterback. And if you're going to pick one of them, maybe you pick Trask. Going back to the argument that you said, I actually probably would have picked Kellen Mond. But to your point, John, he has started for 4 years. Like, it's not like this dude hasn't had the reps. He has, and his accuracy just has not been good enough. This year was his best year, which is encouraging. But how much higher is the ceiling for Kellen Mond? And so I don't know. Maybe you get some good coaching.
Kellen Mond is what you see is what you get. Like the Texas A&M version of Kellen Mond is what he's going to be in the pros, and it's questionable whether that's starting caliber material or not.
I think he can get a little bit better, but I think that GMs and coaches hate when they can already see your ceiling when it comes to the NFL draft.
That's exactly right. Yes, that's a great point, Trevor.
Have imagination. They want to think, but this guy didn't start that long. So like
he's this, but he's going to be that, right?
Right. Right.
And I can do it. I can do it. This can be me that gets him here,
Even if the final ceiling between two guys is right here, if one guy is here and one guy is here, they will take this guy. Right. They will take this guy because they don't know exactly where it is. So that's what I was saying.
Yep.
Well, the quarterback position is going to be interesting. Did I hear you slide in there that you believe you think they're going to carry 4 and Griffin's going to play over Trask this year?
Now I don't know. I guess what I was saying really is that they have their 3 veterans that I feel like they should have been comfortable with instead of drafting a quarterback. I guess Griffin's the odd man out here.
Yeah, probably. Rip Griff. He's about to come on the pod too. I mean, he still will maybe. I don't know.
RG4 baby.
Have to feel it out. Right. But I mean, hey, he'll be in camp and obviously he's going to get opportunity. And I know this Scott doesn't want to hear this. So Scott, you may want to hit mute on me before I say this, but maybe Griff beats Gabbard out. Who knows?
That's who knows? That is blasphemy.
I hope
not happen.
I hope Ryan Griffin
dare you say that,
goes full throttle in training camp and just starts going full Jameis, like balls going deep over the middle every single time because he's just like, I got to impress the scouts. So he's just
he had that one amazing preseason, right? And could we not make the argument that Griff's one amazing preseason is better than anything Gabbard's done in a real NFL game?
It was 2019 preseason.
I was just Scott. That was the Tanner Hudson year, right?
Yes.
That was the Tanner Hudson leading the NFL in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns.
And
during
Ryan
the
Griffin leading the passing statistics for the NFL during the preseason.
Wherever he goes, somebody's going to trade for Tanner Hudson or snipe him off the practice squad or whatever it is because they got to reunite that duo.
That's a powerful 1-2 punch in the preseason. That is Mr. August 1 and 2 right there. No doubt about it.
Mr. August.
It just is.
When Griff gets cut, we're gonna write our story that way. We're gonna say Bucs release Mr. August.
Yeah.
Hey, in favor of Gator
I like
Great.
Griff. He just never got an opportunity to see the field outside of like one series against the Colts in 2019. That was it.
I mean, if they played him over Blaine like they should, maybe he would. But
here's the thing: it wasn't even a competition last year. Like when Bruce, got to Tampa, and once Blaine's shoulder was healed from his 2019 preseason injury, it's like first week of camp last year, Bruce was like, "There's no competition. Blaine's our number 2." I mean, he had no qualms. Yeah. That was odd for sure, but funny too. Okay, Robert Hainsey in the 3rd round. Trevor, this pick drew some criticism from one Scott Reynolds because of the frame of our friend Robert Hainsey, just a little bit dopey looking fellow. And Scott said, "Twiggy legs,
look at this skinny arms, skinny legs." Scott said, "Get this guy in the weight room, man."
I have seen this man before. He's disguised in a Notre Dame uniform, but it's Caleb Benenoch. I'm telling you.
Oh man,
he does play a lot different than Caleb Benenoch. I think we all agree with that.
I think he's a better player. And you know what? Right. I went back and I watched the reps of Robert Hainsey at the Senior Bowl because that's really where he was playing inside at guard, and because he was obviously a right tackle for all of those starts at Notre Dame. But this guy, he fires off the ball. It doesn't look pretty. And the funny thing is, John, when you and I were talking during the draft about Robert Hainsey, kind of reminded me a little bit, but in a different way, of Dalton Reisner, a guy at K-State who I liked and ultimately was drafted by the Broncos. Doesn't look pretty, but gets the job done.
But Reisner had a better body, right? He was a little more pro-ready. But you're right.
He was a little bit more
built or
no. Reisner was boxy. He was super boxy.
But he was ready to go, right?
Yes, it was well distributed. It wasn't like
no Joe Tryon.
Well, it wasn't Joe Tryon, but I'm just saying I think that Hainsey is one of those guys that doesn't look pretty but gets the job done.
Mm-hmm. That's what Brandon Thorne told us for sure. And it's I was not a huge fan of his tape at right tackle, but then I had to get my mind to put him inside where I don't think he's going to be in the NFL, and it was tricky. But there were some other guys on the board, including one Quinn Miners. Did you think that they might go with another one of those small school guys?
I thought that they were going to. I mean, that's where we've linked them all the time, right? It was just the obvious, like, oh, the Bucs drafted Ali Marpet and Alex Kappa, so that must mean that they're for sure going to draft Quinn Miners. And it didn't come to pass. And I understand why, because you guys mentioned that Hainsey played at right tackle, but he might be in a more interior player where I think everybody believes that he's going to be comfortable. But the thing about Hainsey and why he makes sense for the Buccaneers is he's got 34 games as a starter. So, you draft Robert Hainsey for the next two years, really during this winning window, because you know that you're probably not going to get as lucky as you did last year with the offensive line being as healthy as they were. I mean, that's just like that doesn't happen often. And so if you have Robert Hainsey there, that's depth to be able to play almost all 5 positions if they need him to. And so the first year, certainly, you guys talking about like his body being a little bit weird. I'm sure the first couple of years of him being in Tampa Bay is simply going to be about redistributing his weight, like getting him stronger in the lower half, like allowing him to be more reliable because he's got more strength to anchor. And so that's what you're hoping for anyways. This guy's not coming in to start. You just want him to have the experience. You don't want a situation where, okay, our one of our tackles is down this game and our right guard's down this game. So we actually need Robert Hainsey to play. You don't want this dude taking some of his like most early games at an actual competition level. This guy's got 34 games as a starter. So that's why they took him for the experience there. And Quinn Miners is like, he's coming from such a lower level. The jump and the adjustment is going to be there. And
he didn't play in 2020.
Right. And he didn't play in 2020 and he's never played center, he taught himself how to snap. And so that's why I think that it was a fun thing to kind of dream with the Bucs getting Quinn Miners, because you look at their history. But I'm telling you guys, the Hainsey pick makes way more sense than the Miners pick would have.
And I think the thing too with Hainsey is this team has seen Alex Kappa come in with that left tackle small school body and really just reform his shape and hit the weight room and just kind of he looks like a guard now with his lower trunk and his midsection and his thighs and glutes, everything, like his hips. I mean, he looks like a guard. He looked like a tall linear guy. Now he actually has a base where he can anchor, and it showed last year. Alex Kappa, believe it or not, the only offensive line starter for the Bucs that didn't give up a sack last year. I mean, if you would have told me that before the season started, I would not have believed you. But that ended up being the case.
Yeah, he became a real stud, and the Bucs, what they've done with he and with Donovan Smith, I think, is given, especially since the new regime took over, the strides that Smith has taken in the last 2 seasons. I mean, people would make fun of him, and now you had people like in his corner. Like, you would have never thought that would have happened years ago, and now you have people in his corner because of the transformation. And then with Kappa, the growth over 3 years is pretty incredible. So what they've done is certainly encouraging. But we've still got to see it with Hainsey. William Butler with the $4.99 super chat.
Yeah,
go ahead,
appreciate that.
No, I was going to say, did William just pay $5 to remind me that I tweeted that Brady is broken during the Minnesota game?
We appreciate that so much.
Yeah, it's a huge shout out to William, man. What a great fan.
Look, all this does is it puts another concrete block into the house of me and the foundation of me leaving and me being the curse for Tampa being good, okay? John remembers this. Minnesota game, Brady had been playing terrible down the stretch. Like last couple of weeks, he had just been so off. And I tweeted the words, Tom Brady is broken.
He missed Godwin over the middle.
You remember exactly what happened. Next drive, touchdown. Next game, W. Big streak, W's. Next stop, Super Bowl. You are all welcome.
He literally didn't lose or really have a bad game after you tweeted that. It was incredible. I mean, literally, I remember I was in the press box, my first game at Raymond James Stadium, and I'm looking down at the field, and I see him miss Chris Godwin over the middle. It's kind of a broken play. He's a little bit on the move. He throws. Should have hit him for sure. He was wide open, but Brady on the move's never been really his forte. So I was like, dang, okay, that was a big play. People are going to go nuts. And I look at Twitter, and you said Tom Brady is broken. I was like, oh, no. And then, sure, I thought, like, oh, man, But then it turned out to be a good thing, because then the next throw the dude had was the touchdown to Scotty. I mean, it was like, and ever since then, it was just like a straight clip. They didn't lose. I mean, it was incredible. So hats off to you for sure for going against your, and I'm sure that I haven't even looked, but I'm sure Freezing Cold Takes has gotten it. I mean, sure it's been through all that, and I appreciate you sacrificing the Twitter credit. I mean, you have a lot to be able to sacrifice for sure, but you sacrificed some Twitter cred to bring the Bucs a Super Bowl championship. Just a really selfless moment by you.
At the time, I was right, and I'll stand by it.
At the time,
for that drive, you were right.
Those first 2 drives did not look good.
It wasn't just that drive. It was like the last couple of weeks. Like, like they had the Bucs.
He needed the bye week. He's an old man. I can relate to Brady. I'm only a couple years older than him. I can relate to needing that bye week. Just saying.
Oh, it was great stuff, though.
So here's the thing. I want to, there's. We're going to circle back around to the defensive tackles real quick for a reason. Should have drafted a Liam McNeil in the second round. I disagree with that. I worry about interior line depth, 34 years old, McClendon 35, Nacho average. I get that. So this is interesting because, again, Trevor, you and I are kind of syncing on the same wavelength here. We mentioned earlier that you had picked Levi Onwuzurike as a potential, first-round pick for the Buccaneers prior to the 2021 draft.
Mm-hmm.
In your most recent mock draft, your way too early 2022 mock draft, you got this guy right here. All right. Now, I'll tell you what, when I read it, I said abso-friggin-lutely, because I've already started doing research on him. This is Jordan Davis from Georgia, 6'6", 330. He's a man-child. Doesn't bring a lot in terms of sack production. He only has 6.5 sacks. He had 4 as a sophomore with 2.5 tackles for loss, but he's a nose tackle. His job is really to fight the A gap, the double team, the center guard double team, free up the other defensive tackle, Travon Walker for Georgia, who's an undersized guy, 6'5", 275, but he's more of their pass rusher. But this guy in 7 games last year had a sack and a tackle for loss. But just like Vita Vea, you can't coach size, 6'6", 330. The thing is, we hear and we see in these early mock drafts, DeMarvin Leal from Texas A&M, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Davis from Clemson, defensive tackle, I get it. Not as sold on the Oklahoma kid, the defensive tackle Perion Winfrey, or the Alabama defensive tackle Fedarian Mathis yet. Zach Pickens from South Carolina thinks got some potential. But the thing is, this guy, I think when it's all said and done, if he's not a first rounder, I think he's going to be in second round consideration just because of his size and athleticism. He is an absolute hoss. And I wanted to get your thoughts on him. And I know we're already looking ahead to 2022 and we'll wrap up the 2021 draft.
Right.
But Trevor, they passed on defensive line this year. And that commentator makes a good point. At some point in time, you got to address the defensive line because I do think this is the last year for Sue and McClendon.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's why I had Jordan Davis there. And Davis was kind of getting some fringe first round, second round hype in last year's draft cycle before he decided to return. And I don't know if he ends up being a first round pick. I mean, we'll see because, Vita was a first round pick because he was just kind of like an insane moving athlete for a man his size. I don't know if Davis is ever going to give you that kind of ability as a pass rusher. So I don't know if he's ever going to be a first round guy, but I wanted to, more so me trying to correctly predict the first round. I was really just trying to get some names on people's radar. And for the Buccaneers specifically, I like Jordan Davis, whether it's in the first round, which I don't know if that's going to happen, but even in the second round as well could be an option for them because, you're probably moving on from Dominican Sue. You're probably moving on from a couple of the older defensive linemen. And when you think about it, a lot of the Bucs' money and impact is tied up in their edge rushers. It's in Shaq Barrett, it's in Jason Pierre-Paul, and now it's in Joe Tryon as well. So for them to have another edge rusher that they've already invested in, why not just have 2 absolute beasts in the middle of the defensive line? And all of a sudden, like Jordan Davis is a 2-gap player. Like he can easily eat up all kinds of double teams. And sitting right next to him would be one of the best 2-gap players in the NFL, one of the best interior penetrators in the NFL in Vita Vea. So it's like all of a sudden the point of attack, if you will, becomes so strong with those 2 guys. It frees up at least one of the edge rushers, if not both, to have one-on-one opportunities. And
it is if it frees up one of these guys. Now, I mean, Vita Vea used to taking on the double teams, so is Jordan Davis. Give one of those guys a guard to handle, right? And I'm putting the bets on either one of those guys getting at least some push in the pocket, if not getting to the quarterback.
And the other point that I just wanted to make about Davis and having more of a stronger type of mold in the middle, along with Vita Vea, and not necessarily a pass rusher, is think of how clean you get to keep your linebackers if these 2 guys are in the middle. You just you get the freedom of just letting Devin White go see ball, get ball. You know what I'm saying? Like if these 2 guys are in the middle, he's not getting clogged. Guys aren't getting to the second level. We already know that Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul can hold up as well. So all of a sudden, Levante David and Devin White are just free as a bird back there at the second level. So you're going to defend the run really well. You're going to be able to fit it, whether it's right up the A gap or all the way to the sideline. I feel like that all of a sudden makes your front so good to be able to dictate the line of scrimmage like that.
Yeah. I'm dating myself here a little bit, but this guy is like John Henderson size from like the old Jacksonville Jaguars.
Right.
Days.
Yeah.
He's
that's
just
who you're
a mountain of a man.
Wonder if he gets slapped in the pregame like John Henderson did.
Right.
if he does, automatic first round pick.
Joe.
Automatic first round pick if he gets cuffed in the face before he gets out there. I mean, that was
please.
Would love him in Tampa Bay. But I appreciated the fact that you picked a defensive tackle for them, because it was, to me, it was clearly like, you look this year, they didn't take one. It's obviously an old position for them right now. They need to get younger there. They need to get better there. But also, this group is, probably looking at a couple guys that are playing their last season with Tampa Bay among their current defensive tackle group. So yeah, it is a position that they're going to need to address. But instead of addressing that on day 3 of the, moving up for a return guy for Jalen Darden. And I don't know if a lot of people saw Jalen Darden being a target of the Bucs, because they've typically taken bigger receivers. Not sure in round 4, people thought definitely not a trade up situation. Did you like Jalen Darden coming into the draft process? What were your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously more of like a smaller school guy coming from North Texas. But again, it goes back to what I kind of introed, saying that day 3 for this draft was going to be all about owning the special teams. And I think that Darden gives you plenty of value at wide receiver as well. But when you look at this wide receiver room, especially for next year, it's Mike Evans, it's Chris Godwin, it's Antonio Brown, it's Scotty Miller, it's, Justin Watson or Tyler Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not a lot of room there. However, Jalen Darden gives you a lot on special teams too. And I think that that's important. Scott taught me that very early in my time at Pewter Report, coming from just being a draft guy that loved to take swings at the fences in the 6th and 7th round. I'd be like, oh yeah, like this guy can be a starter for this team, blah, blah, blah. And Scott's like, hey, you've got to build out the bottom of your roster of guys who can play special teams. You can't just be drafting some of these all-star potential wide receivers that, even if they fell in the draft, if they can't contribute on special teams, they're not going to be able to make the roster even. So that's kind of a lesson that I learned early in my beat reporter days. And I feel like that's what the Bucs really prioritize here on day 3, is they got a lot of guys that, if they are making the roster, they're also having a really good advantage for them in special teams. And Darden's got that special teams ability as a returner and, as a receiver as well. He gives them that explosive potential. Whether you're getting the ball in his hands early and he's doing stuff after the catch, or you're letting him streak vertical down the field, he brings you that kind of electrifying element. I read a quote by him the other day, and I don't know if I'm completely going to get it right, but he said, making someone miss, like breaking a tackle or just like juking somebody. He's like, making somebody miss is like brushing my teeth. I got to do it every day. Right. Like that. That was the quote that he said. And so
there's another good one too.
Talked about.
He says, "Slow feet don't eat."
That's true. That's very true.
And,
so is he all chirp team? Did he make the?
Sounds like it.
Wow. He's off to a good start. Let's say that. But listen, here's what I like. You could knock the guy for playing at North Texas, but again, he doesn't make the schedule, right? It's not his fault that he's like roasting UTEP for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns,
right?
La Tech and some of these other schools, UTSA. But the thing is this was a big time producer. 9 100-yard games, 9 games with 2 or more touchdowns, including 5 games with 3 touchdowns or more. And I mean, you look at some of this. I mean, 13 catches, 244 yards, 3 touchdowns against Charlotte, 8 catches, 173 yards, 4 touchdowns versus UTEP. Again, he doesn't make the schedule, but in the games that he's gone out there and played against, he's really showed his stuff. What I liked about him too is you put him up against the bigger competition. 5 catches for 87 yards against Arkansas, 2 catches for 75 yards and a TD against Cal. So don't knock him just because he's played at a Conference USA school. This guy had 19 receiving touchdowns last year. That's good in any conference. And
now he's like 5'8", 185 or something like that, or 175, right, Scott? He's small dude, but at least
175.
175, right? Yeah. So at least when they trade up in the 4th round for their small receiver. Wouldn't it have been terrible, Trevor, if they had taken Jalen Darden and traded up in, like, say, the 2nd round for a small receiver like that? And not even just a small receiver. I mean, there were certainly some other small receivers in the draft. I don't know if you've ever heard of a team doing that before, maybe taking a receiver in the 2nd round who could or could not fit inside the average grown man's pocket.
God, they're going to make me talk about Tutu Atwell, aren't they? They're going to make me talk about Tutu Atwell.
Yes, we are.
This was, all right, just because you're baiting me, this is the pick in the draft that I understood the absolute least, okay? Sean McVay, all the respect in the world. I think he's a brilliant head coach. I really do. Maybe he'll work magic out of this. But I have no idea how a team with trench needs on both sides of the ball, a lot of offensive line needs, some defensive line needs. No first-round pick this year. No first-round pick next year. No first-round pick the year after that. No first-round picks until Kingdom Come drafts a 149-pound wide receiver with their first selection of the draft, and it's the deepest position they have on the roster. How in the world did we get to this point? Where is the value? Where is the return? Even if Tutu Atwell becomes exactly what you think you dream him to be in the NFL, it'd be a bad pick.
Trevor,
the only way I can rationalize
just snap your fingers. Just snap your fingers, Trevor.
The only way I can rationalize this, Trevor,
it's all
is that Les Snead and Sean McVay just watched Ant-Man, like out at their nice. They just watched Ant-Man over and over again, lead up to the draft. And they were like, and they're just throwing him back out at that beach house. Look at this little guy can do. They're throwing him back out at the beach house, and they're like, what if we just? Hey, Sean, what if we just had a little guy that we sniped the ball to him? He ran between everybody's legs and like, what could we be stopped? And like, then they looked at they're like, this guy just had a weigh-in video trying to prove himself.
Find me Ant-Man.
That's it. They went into the draft looking for Ant-Man. They found him. Case closed. But no, the context is what's unbelievable about the situation, Trevor, is because the Rams, they haven't had a first-round pick in forever. They're not going to have one for like. It's like that part makes it even funnier. And then the fact that Cooper Kupp is there and Robert Woods is not like.
And Van Jefferson. And they signed Deshaun Jackson. Like,
how does he even get on the field?
Rams fans are telling me that Tutu's going to play in the slot. And I'm like, Cooper Kupp plays in the slot.
Right.
Van Jefferson plays in the slot. Yeah. Robert Woods plays in the slot. What kind of dream world are you trying to like create where this pick is anything more than an absolute F? There is no way that this pick is anything more than an F. It was so bad.
It's one of the all-time picks.
Bad. I remember we were on the live stream and this got clipped, so it's on Twitter somewhere. And I'm standing next to Josh Norris, and they announced the pick, and Josh just like, really? And I'm like, there's no way. I'm just losing. Like Josh is kind of like keeping his composure, and I'm losing my mind.
Well, it's funny because I watched your stream after we came off our stream, and on our stream, Scott told me the pick, and Scott, you remember, I lost my mind. Yeah. I mean, I had a box up, and I was like, he'd fit in this thing. Like, they just took him with their first pick in the draft, and then I saw your reaction.
Okay, did you see? And we're roasted Tutu like too much now. All respect to him. Hope he has an incredible NFL career. Genuinely do.
I mean, honestly, a young king for getting drafted that high.
No question about it.
Twitter weigh-in video.
I was just about to bring in. He confidently got on that scale, showed 160, and went.
Done,
y'all.
Round.
Y'all get the gold jacket fitted, and we're out here like, dude, unbelievable, man.
What a king!
I knew the NFL was a lot higher on Tutu Atwell because Daniel Jeremiah, who I love,
the NFL was not. The Rams were. Let's just clarify that.
Well, hold on though. Like Daniel Jeremiah, who I love and respect, who has a lot of really great sources. He had Tutu in his top 40 in like February, January, February.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy cow, he must be getting told stuff from the league because there's no way this guy should be in the top 40.
Yeah.
And then look at that. He gets drafted in the second round. It never.
Trevor, since you're now an authority on the Carolina Panthers, we've got a 5-pound super chat from Callum Shaw. Evening studs. Trev, will Darnold become a franchise quarterback? I really liked him, but being at the Jets was a poor fit for him. Great content, UK fan. So thank you very much for that.
Great to see some of the Panthers questions for noted Panthers analyst and fan.
So we have a resident Panthers expert in the house. So what are your thoughts on Sam Darnold going to that stadium just down the street from you?
All right. So all sarcasm and underlying insult aside, I like the move for Sam Darnold from Sam Darnold's perspective. Of course, it makes a lot of sense.
It's an upgrade for him.
Like, him getting out of New York. I mean, that situation was absolutely abysmal. And obviously, it's a new regime. We saw the Jets draft Zach Wilson, and then the second they did, they went and got offensive linemen. They got offensive weapons. They got him a running back. They're clearly going to be a lot more all in on getting him help. Yeah, that's true. Are they going to do the thing? Hold on. Are they going to do the thing with Michael Carter where when it's the exact same name, it's just all spelled out on the jersey? The whole name is just spelled out on the jersey. It just says Michael Carter on it because it'd be a lot of words. I think that Darnold's in a much better spot. I think that he certainly has a chance to be a lot better than he was with the New York Jets. But it's tough because even though he is still so young, because he was one of the youngest players drafted back in 2018, he's 3 years into it. And these are kind of crucial years as you're really learning how to become a quarterback. And he's not really any better. You know, a lot of the concerns that we had over Sam Darnold playing within structure coming out of USC, those are still there. And a lot of his best plays that you see with the New York Jets are still outside of structure stuff. It's when he's scrambling for his life. You know, he looks back upfield, he sees something happen, and it's like he's playing backyard football. He just naturally lets it go. He doesn't have to think about it, and the ball gets to where it needs to go. And it's like, wow, that was a brilliant play. It was outside of structure. That's what draws you to Sam Darnold. But when things are very in structure, when he's got to evaluate, when he's got to analyze, when he's got to really think about what to do next, it's just not there for him yet. It's not nearly as natural. You could tell that he's stressed. You could see that the hamster wheel moving a little bit, if you will. And so for that, he's got 2 years left on his rookie deal. You know, he's got this next year, and then they picked up his 5th-year option. So they got 2 years to figure it out, and I think he'll be a little bit better. But the bigger overarching question for all of this was them taking Sam Darnold, or them trading for Sam Darnold, prohibited them from taking Justin Fields when he was there at 8, which I think is a really big takeaway. And now, you know, if we're getting into some NFC South draft selections, you have it up there on the screen. I love this draft.
I do too. I thought the Panthers really, really had a strong draft.
If you take quarterback off of consideration, like if you just say they were never going to consider taking a quarterback at number 8, this draft is an A+. It's not just an A. They hit every single need that they needed to. They got players that they're familiar with. They got Christensen to play left tackle in the 3rd round. They got great upside players through round 5. I mean, throughout the entire draft, rounds 1 through 7. I mean, they drafted a long snapper, but it also gave us great social media content. So I guess I'm happy with it. If you just take quarterback off the table, this was an unreal draft from Scott Fitterer in his first time as general manager with Carolina. But going back to the Darnold question, they don't have Justin Fields, and they don't have Justin Fields because they have Sam Darnold. And I think that has to weigh into the consideration. So I think Darnold will be better, to answer the question. But a franchise quarterback, I wouldn't say those words. And I think it's, you know, we're going to look back on this in a couple of years and wonder if Carolina really blew it by not getting Justin Fields.
Yeah, you're right. That's, if you look at it from the context of who they drafted, I think you're really happy. If you look at it from who they passed on, it could hang over the whole draft. And you say that about the Jets too, to be honest, not to deviate too far from the NFC and the NFC South, but same thing with the Jets. Everybody loves their draft. I called it like a draft for the ages. I think they got a ton of good players, but at the end of the day, if Zach Wilson busts and Justin Fields or Trey Lance are studs, you know, it's going to be hard to look back on that and say, oh, wow, yeah, y'all nailed it when they mess up the most important position. So I know quarterback's a crapshoot, but that's kind of how it goes.
Right.
Let's skip over KJ Britt just for time's sake, because we want to get to a couple more questions before we wrap up. Let's just mention real quick Chris Wilcox in the 7th round. He was brought in as his cornerback, and it looked like he was going to have to compete with Herb Miller for the 5th cornerback spot, and it was going to be a special teams battle. Today, the Bucs did add Nate Brooks, who has played in a bunch of different places, Arizona, Miami, New England, and most recently in Baltimore. Only see the field for a couple games. Special teams, got a couple defensive starts, I think, when he was in Miami, and they just kind of pulling guys off the street to play cornerback. So we'll see how Nate Brooks fits into the competition there. It's kind of going to be Herb. It's going to be Jonathan Franklin. It's going to be Chris Wilcox. It's going to be Nate Brooks now for that CB5.
I think Jonathan Franklin, they're going to keep him a wide receiver. I know he played quarterback with the Bears, but and he can do both. He's
done all kinds of stuff. He's still listed as depth chart as corner.
Yeah, I know. But
I have no clue.
He's going to be a wide receiver.
Right. So
he's not going to be on the team, but you know.
Right. Jeez, we're out here cutting people.
Yeah.
Cutting people in May. Let's do it. I love it. Okay, let me ask you this, Trevor. This regular season schedule gets released on Wednesday.
Yes.
6 days from now. And the Bucs are going to have the opener, right? Okay. So who do they play in the opener? Out of the teams that they're slated to play, what matchup do you want to see in Tampa Bay to open the season?
There's only one answer.
Wow.
Okay. There is only one answer.
Okay.
It is Jameis Winston coming back home for the New Orleans Saints to play against the Buccaneers in Raymond James Stadium. The Bucs have opened up their season against the Saints in 2 out of the last, this will be 4 years, but 2 out of the last 3 years to this point. 2018, they were in New Orleans, and then 2020, they opened up in New Orleans as well. That 2018 game in New Orleans, I will remember forever because that was the absolute magic. firework game of Fitzmagic that they ended up outdueling the Saints 48-40 in that game. So they have a run here of opening their season with the Saints, and the Saints have become their most heated rival. These are the two teams that are now at the top of the division. They've got some personal beef between players back and forth that, they are not very quiet about. And so no question about it, given the teams that they are playing at home next year, I would love to see it switch. No longer in New Orleans, now in Tampa Bay. They're playing the Saints, and I'd love it for Jameis Winston to be the starting quarterback of the Saints. That make it even better.
Well, what about when Ian Book wins the starting quarterback job?
Okay, sure. Yeah. Forgot about that. Yeah, you're right.
Or Taysom Hill. Let's.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because if there's going to be Jameis in there and he's going to start the whole game, I would imagine there's going to be a pick six, right? There just wouldn't be Jameis without one. But you're right in terms of the storylines, because the NFC South champions still technically are the New Orleans Saints, even though the Bucs beat them to get to the Super Bowl. So I agree. I think that's very much in consideration just because of the intrigue of Jameis or even Taysom Hill, whoever wins that Saints job. I could see that. I could definitely see that being the home opener on Thursday night just to kick off the NFL season.
In terms of what would be the best actual football game, in my opinion, obviously we're a ways off, but I would think Buffalo would be an unbelievable game. But the storylines aren't the same as New England, and I know that's not New England, but as Tampa Bay, against the Saints, there's way more storylines there. There's history.
I didn't realize they play at New England this year.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Well, man, Brady's gonna throw for 8 touchdowns that game. Holy cow.
There's some buzz. There's some buzz that around the league that game could be on Thursday night, Thanksgiving night, because of the ratings. Because that Thursday night, Thanksgiving night game got buku ratings, even more so than like a Sunday night game or a Monday night game. So we could be covering Bucs, Patriots, Brady, Belichick, fighting off a turkey-induced coma that night.
As long as it's after the trade deadline, so New England doesn't have Stephon Gilmore anymore, then Brady's just going to throw for 800 yards.
That's a great point. That's a fantastic point.
That's an interesting element to this, that trade deadline with Stephon Gilmore.
Right.
I hadn't thought about that at all, but no, all those are great matchups. I mean, honestly, that game has a lot of potential, and I think they'll pick one of those would be my guess. But yeah, it is. There are definitely a lot of intriguing storylines as you look at how the Bucs are going to open the season. I personally kind of gravitate toward that Josh Allen trying to beat Tom Brady, although it was only for a couple of years early on. I think I know it's a narrative in Buffalo, and I know that would probably carry major ratings up in Buffalo.
Yeah, I could see it.
Well, I wanted to ask you too, Trevor, about as the Bucs, you see a year in which Tampa Bay has gone into this offseason, re-signed everyone, just kind of done what you let's face it, you've been a lifelong Bucs fan and follower, and you've covered the team, and to see them where they are now, and after this offseason going into what, and you could talk about the state of the NFC if you want, but to me, I look across the NFC and I say, the game's not won on paper, but on paper, it helps a lot. And, it seems like the Bucs are doing pretty well. So just thoughts on the Bucs, where they're at after this crazy season, and your thoughts on it from a standpoint of always having followed them.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of fun to follow. Obviously during this past season, I really missed being a part of the Pewter Report family and getting to actually write about wins instead of so many different losses, and when the coaches are getting fired and who's the next players that are coming in. Cause I felt like that was a big portion of when I was there, just because it's been Buccaneer football over the last decade. And so I've said this before, the coolest part about all of their success was getting to see some people who work in that Tampa media market who do some unbelievable work, of course, you guys included, finally get some national recognition for it, because it had been over a decade since people really cared about what was going on down in Tampa Bay. And I've gotten to know and read and just work closely with so many incredible reporters and people who cover that team in Pewter Report and just throughout the beat. And so to see them get the national attention for a lot of their hard work was really fun. And then, of course, I've made so many friends growing up around Tampa, and just even with my time covering Pewter Report, just around the team, so many great Bucs fans who have dealt with so much crap and so much bad football that they have had to watch. Now to get them to see them celebrate and for the team that they root for and put so much time and money and everything in, kind of give something back to them, giving them a little bit of joy. That was a lot of fun as well. I hope, I certainly hope that the Buccaneers are, I mean, I could say just as good because it'd be cool to see them win back to back. But I mean, like, I just hope that they are, of course, competitive again, competing for a division title, getting into the playoffs, because a lot of the fans didn't really get to experience it last year, with everything that happened and not being able to go to the games and tailgate and get in the stadium and see things early. And, last year, of course, there was a lot of hype with Brady coming in, but yeah, they were sitting there in the middle of the season, 7-5. And so it's not like they were just these like Super Bowl juggernauts the whole year. This year, they're coming into the season. They're defending Super Bowl champs. There's going to be a lot of hype around the season opener and all of the home games throughout the season, which hopefully we'll get to see a lot of fans in there for. So it's been a lot of fun for me,
Trevor.
Less so as just like a fan and somebody who grew up south of Tampa, but more of fans of the people who get to report and follow this team that have had a lot of fun days.
Trevor, speaking of hype, we've got some breaking news to break on the Pewter Report podcast. This is a special public service announcement brought to you by Manscaped.com. This is your pubic service announcement. And the news that you've all been waiting for, the Manscaped engineering team has confirmed that they have successfully created the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, which is now available for purchase in the USA and in Canada. This new trimmer was just released moments ago today, May 6th, Thursday. And we're going to be the first ones to get our hands on it next week to share the news. Join the over 2 million men, including myself and John. And Trevor, I'm guessing you too. You look like you could use some Manscaped products.
Wow.
Who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the promo code Pewter at Manscaped.com. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that the new 4.0 lawnmower is even better than the 3.0 that I've tried. You're going to be blown away by the performance, the craftsmanship, the details on the 4.0 are next level. The advanced ceramic blade and skin-safe technology is so good, it almost seems as if Manscaped worked on Elon Musk's engineers to ensure that your testicles are as safe as possible. So listen, what makes this trimmer different from all the other trimmers? It's a new multifunctional on and off switch that can engage a travel lock created for people who like to travel. That means you're not going to have that vibrating, buzzing sound going off in your bag that can be embarrassing. The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for the more precise shave. The new trimmer even allows you to customize your trim level all over through the additional guard lengths with sizes 1 through 4. And looks-wise, it's sleek with two-tone matte and gloss finish and even features a hot foil stamped black chromed Manscaped logo. Show off that mower loud and proud. The optimized Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is waterproof so you can groom in the shower and not have to worry about making a mess on the bathroom floor. Did I mention the wireless charging? The Lawnmower 4.0's new wireless charging system uses electromagnetic induction, which can help your battery length last longer. If you're still trimming your face with your ball trimmer, it's time to make some changes. Get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code Pewter at Manscaped.com. No person wants to end up with pubes in their mouth. Your balls will thank you. Get 20% off with free shipping using the promo code Pewter at Manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at Manscaped.com. Use the promo code Pewter. Get the new Lawnmower 4.0 and unlock the confidence, and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
I cannot. I wish
Trevor go.
Is it safe?
I wish Trevor, Eric Collison just joined the chat.
Oh my God, what a time to join!
I
the
wish
chat.
Trevor had been on the pod when the Manscaped ad read began with, "So are you dealing with Trevor Lawrence's haircut in your pants?" I wish he'd been on for that. That was when I lost it. I had no idea that was coming, and I lost my marbles that time. I'm telling you, man, they got some great writers over there. They got some great writers over there.
Great is definitely a word to use. Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up with this, Trevor. You look across the NFC, you look at this 2021 season. Who is the Bucs' biggest opposition? Not to winning the Super Bowl. We know, I think I know what you're going to say in that regard, but to getting to the Super Bowl in their conference, who is the biggest opposition and how much of a threat do you consider them when you look across the NFC? Nobody.
Seahawks,
all right, let's go home.
Maybe. I don't know, because the teams that have the most talented rosters, probably the Seahawks and the Packers.
And their quarterbacks hate them.
Right. Their quarterbacks hate where they are. So how much do you expect to get in return? How much are these guys going to lay it all on the line? I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think, I guess the Rams are going to be certainly a playoff threat, but I don't think they're an actual threat to the Buccaneers. I guess they went 10-6 next year. Or last year. So I have to name them, but I don't believe in Chicago. I don't believe in the Vikings. Detroit's not there yet. Not afraid of Dallas at all. Washington still no, even with Fitzmagic. There's just a shelf life there. Yeah. The answer honestly might be the team I just roasted for picking Tutu Atwell. if we're being completely honest, I think that it might be the Rams. The Rams in the NFC might actually be their biggest. It
certainly can't be this team with or without Rodgers. They can't beat the Bucs with Rodgers, much less without him, right?
I don't know. I don't know who beats his team. I really don't. Yeah.
It's crazy,
which is terrifying to think. As someone,
no, that's exactly right. It's like Bucs fans are afraid to recognize it. I think. But state of the NFC currently right now. I think the Bucs are clearly top dog. Now, I'll say this: there's always that potential for the 49ers. I've mentioned them before. I know Trey Lance even as a rookie, but that's an offense you can hit the ground running in as a rookie, and he has a dangerous skill set. They could be a surprise shocker type team. Also, can't wait to clip all of those little parts where you were just like, no chance, this team sucks, no, and bring them back up on social as soon as they get a few wins to start the season.
What did Akbar say? It's a trap. It's a trap. We just brought Trevor on to trap him into saying
that's exactly right. Things. Eric Carlson, of course, with the $10 super chat before we sign off here. He says, before you sign off, can we get an old locked on NFL draft brother call out?
Brother.
The Tutu Atwell pick. Brother was created for the Tutu out moments. That's like true. That was what it was created for. No question about it. Trevor, man, it's great having you back on the pod. We appreciate so much you taking the time. I know we went a little bit long. We always do whenever you come on here, it feels like, but it's always a great time and always giving the fans the insight that they need. And your perspective is something I know a lot of people in this area can't wait to hear whenever you come on. So we appreciate it.
Well,
go ahead, Scott.
I was going to say the thing is that the Bucs stock happened to rise when you left. And that's it's great for Tampa Bay. It's unfortunate maybe for you, but if you're interested in stocks and sports, Symbol is the stock market for sports that allows you to trade sports teams like stocks and earn cash payouts when your team wins. Symbol has blended sports and the stock market to offer a new way to invest in and profit off of your favorite teams. Use the sports knowledge that you have to buy low, sell high, and earn cash payouts when your team wins. Join the 2,500 plus early adopters, including myself, who have created this way to invest in their favorite teams. The stock market for sports, just a tap away. Create a free account in seconds to start profiting from your sports knowledge. And to save, to get $10 deposit bonus, go to www.symbol.app/Pewter Report. They're going to give you $10 just for signing up.
I love it.
Well, I know you guys said that the podcast went a little long, but time always flies when I'm talking ball with you guys. It's always great to be back on with the Pewter Report fam. So I really do appreciate you guys having me on the podcast.
Absolutely, man.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Captain. Happy to serve alongside you.
Thank you for your service.
This was, for all the roasting that might be done of me for the clips on this podcast, getting that image was absolutely worth it.
Well, Trevor, listen, when you were hired at Pewter Report, we have a motto here, right? And you know this. We don't look for sidekicks. We look for fellow Avengers, fellow superheroes. That's what it's all about.
This is something that Scott said and something that I love about him as a boss. It's not a giant hierarchy key thing. It's you be the best reporter you could be. And if it's better than me some weeks, then
Absolutely.
good. So yeah, I love that. And many other lessons that you instilled upon me, Scott. So
you're always part of the Pewter Report family, man, no matter where you are, whether you're in the hotbed of the Carolina Panthers or not. You're always a Pewter reporter for life. And we appreciate you coming on very much. And folks, on Monday, we got a special guest, Jake Arians, son of Bruce Arians. You know that guy.
Jake will be great.
He's going to be back talking some Bucs football. I think he knows a little bit about Bucs football, a little bit about the draft, and it's going to be a great conversation. We had Jake on during football season, and he said he would be happy to come on again. So we're going to have Jake Arians on Monday, 4 o'clock. So make sure you check that out. We're excited to have him on, just like we were excited to have you on, Trevor, and we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got some other great guests coming up too, as well in the coming weeks for sure. It'll be a blast. Plus next week, we're going to have the schedule release show. So Monday or Wednesday night when the schedule gets released,
8 o'clock.
Yeah,
right?
It gets released at 8. We're going to be live at 8, ready to break it all down and talk to you all about it as that schedule gets released. So we can't wait to do that with y'all. That's going to be a blast of a show. So right now, just mark those. Go to Pewter Report TV on YouTube, subscribe, and hit the bell to get the notifications from when we go live. Even if you don't want to always have that bell on, that's fine. But just don't forget, Jake Arians' interview is one you're not going to miss. You're not going to want to miss on Monday. And then Wednesday especially. We'll be on Tuesday. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be a great show, and y'all should tune in. But on Wednesday, we're going to have the schedule release show. That show is going to be 8 o'clock. That's going to be at night. So it's going to be a great time on the Pewter Report podcast. So make sure you're subscribed, hit the bell, get the notifications, join in the fun for sure. As always, thank you so much for another great week and another great podcast. And for all of you for tuning in to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.